Under the lights at Craven Cottage, Manchester United weren't just facing Fulham, they were staring into a mirror. A missed penalty, a midfield ripped open, and a manager already feeling the weight of expectation. This wasn't just a 1-1 draw, it was a warning shot to a club still searching for its soul. Tonight we are going to be breaking down 5 biggest lessons that we got from Fulham versus Manchester United, with the stats, the subplots, and moments that you didn't see coming. So before further ado, let's get into this. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that like button if you haven't. I'll see you guys in the next one. Let's go. First things first with this particular one is the missed penalty changed and shifted the entire game. The moment after the 31st minute, VAR awards Manchester United a penalty after Calvin Bassey honestly mauls. He literally mauls down Mason Mount. Bruno Fernandes steps up and literally skies it over as if he was looking for something up in the stands. Honestly, it was mind-boggling because I've never seen Bruno do that kind of thing before. He leaned back. He literally leaned. I don't understand. The technique was just wrong in every sense of it. The numbers itself. Fernandes has now missed 5 Premier League penalties since joining Manchester United, converting 77% overall, down from his 94% rate. That was crazy. That number itself, I know when even putting it into the table, you see how crazy the drop of the penalty spot has been. Bruno was a 94% penalty taker. In fact, Bruno in front of the goalkeeper on the penalty spot was a guaranteed goal for Manchester United. But now the question has to be asked. And I know he's not going to actually be taking off the penalty spot, but I want you guys to understand this. Bukayo Saka might have been taken off the penalty spot. You understand? Because they have Victor Gyökeres. Manchester United have Bryan Mbeumo, that was the penalty taker for Brentford. Manchester United have Matheus Cunha, that was the penalty taker for Wolves. We now have Benjamin Šeško, that was the penalty taker for RB Leipzig. The idea is we have more options, and that option is going to be lending itself to Bruno when he doesn't feel confident enough to play it. And that is one thing that we need to talk about. Now, the subplot about this situation is that just before the kick, of course, we know Bruno has spoken about it. Chris Kavanagh accidentally bumped into Fernandes. In the post-match, he then comes out and basically says, yes, this hit my nerves. But before that, he also said that it was not about him getting bumped into by the Kavanagh, but it was just poor execution. I don't know which one is which, but I think it should not be the case where Chris Kavanagh is the excuse. I understand that when you have a routine, that routine being disrupted can make things absolutely dreadful for you. But that is why when I saw you hold the ball, pick the ball back up, start your routine from scratch, I was like, oh, he is smart. He understands what routine is, and he understands he needs to restart this whole thing. And when you took the deep breath, I was like, he's fine. He's going to put this in the net. And then you skied it over, and I was like, whoa, I don't understand what happened there. But what that impacted us as Manchester United was that Manchester United XG before the penalty miss was 1.2. That's to show you how we created chances, how we were expected to score goals, and how we were playing before that penalty miss. But right after, the attacking momentum literally dipped sharp, a very sharp decline. And of course, Fulham's confidence grew. The crowd sensed Manchester United's vulnerability. And at Craven Cottage, where the crowds are so close to the field, you are going to feel the pressure. And that is what happened to Manchester United. And of course, that led to the second point, which is the midfield disarray. Plus the Fulham tactical exploit that Marco Silva was absolutely brilliant and masterminded after he saw the first 30 minutes play out in his front of his eyes. The shape was a problem. After Casemiro was subbed in the 53rd minute, Manchester United midfield pivot became Bruno and Mason Mount. Both very creative. But we just did not have a destroyer. And the funny thing about not having a destroyer in that part, because when Ugarte came in, yes, he was a destroyer, but then we had already lost control of the game. You understand? We had already lost control of the game. But then you look at the numbers after the substitution took place. Fulham then went to hold 52% possession, completed 369 passes to Manchester United's 344. With Alex Iwobi creating 4 chances, the most on the pitch during that moment that Casemiro came off. And I understand that Casemiro was tired. He honestly started diving into tackles, doing the thing that we saw in his second year at Manchester United when he was a little bit carrying a little bit more pounds than he should. We started seeing that, and that is a tell that somebody is tired, and it was absolutely right for us to take him out. But that was when I thought the control should be the next thing. Instead of us keeping Mount in that position, bring out Casemiro, bring in Kobbie Mainoo, take out Mount, and bring in Benjamin Šeško. That would have been my decision. Now, I'm not a manager. Hopefully not yet anyway. But that would have been my decision. Now, the subplot about this whole situation, about this particular topic, is that Marco Silva mirrored, it was a mirror of what Manchester United's back three did. He mirrored the back three. But in the midfield, he overloaded it. Instead of having 2 10s, he had a 5-man midfield. That basically created a free man to Alex Iwobi. You understand? It created a free man to Alex Iwobi, which in that left half space repeatedly kept on finding pockets behind Bruno. And that is where, if Baleba was part of it, if Baleba was part of the team at this point, we would have seen him being able to actually cover those lanes and cover those pockets. But Bruno is an attack-minded player. Midfield and defensive duties are not his forte. And that is where the problem started. Because Fulham's equalizer came from exactly that zone, that left pocket in behind Bruno. That left pocket, that zone. Iwobi drifted left, untracked, unmarked, delivered a cross to Smith Rowe, and that was the end of it. By the way, the one of Smith Rowe was not tracked by Bruno also. That is a problem. And that is something that I don't really blame Bruno personally, because yes, you're meant to follow the man, but I give him literally 30% of the blame. But the rest of the 70, I'm basically looking at the manager and the people that hasn't bought us a defensive midfielder or a midfielder that has the athletic ability, but the defensive nuance or know-how to actually cover those runs. That is what I'm talking about in that situation. And this leads us to the third one. Fulham's relentless press and how the wing-back duos absolutely changed the game for Fulham. The press from the front, from the first whistle, Fulham's press per defensive action was 8.9. Aggressive for a side that is not in the top 6. That is one thing that Marco Silva has drilled into this team. They are very aggressive from the front foot. The key battle, a lot of people will think, was the midfield of Iwobi and Bruno Fernandes. The key battle for me was Kenny Tete and Patrick Dogu. In the first half, Patrick Dogu held his own. But in the second, Tete started winning the second balls, started winning the ground duels, forced turnovers up high, literally cut out a lot of things that we were trying to do in the build-up. You understand? Cut out a lot of things. Fulham press wasn't about chaos. It truly wasn't. It was targeted. They trapped United's wide centre-backs. So the likes of Lenny Yoro and the likes of Luke Shaw just could not build up from the way they needed to build up. And so what happened in that situation? They started hoofing it long, not building into the wing-back position, not building into the 10s, not building into the midfield. They were hoofing it long. And what happened in that situation? We attempted 66 long passes with only 38% completion. And that in itself is a recipe for disaster. It honestly is a recipe for disaster. The average amount of times that we hoofed it up, it did not land in our feet. It did not land to our players. And maybe with the introduction of Benjamin Šeško, we would actually see those things actually being executed a lot better. But we forget that we are hoofing it up to Brian Mbeumo, that is 5'8" at most. That is a problem. And then you see the knock-on effect on this situation is that Manchester United's front three just saw less quality service. They just didn't get the ball. Matheus Cunha, of course, got that early service from Ben Yedder, and in the first 30 minutes, it was absolutely a flurry of chances. But the moment that 30 minutes surpassed, and after the penalty, it just dried up. Because that was the time that Marco Silva changed his system. Marco Silva changed things, brought more players into the midfield, and basically took over the game. Now this leads us to the defensive, which is the fourth point about the game. Our defensive cracks are just widening. You understand? Of course, Leny Yoro got the goal that deflected off Muniz's back, and that was an own goal, and that was great for us. But the truth about it is that aerial duels are a problem so far. We have basically gotten really good opportunities with Matthijs de Ligt and Leny Yoro. They are winning their battles in a really good way. But when you start seeing that my heart rate goes high when I see a corner kick against Manchester United, that is a problem. That right there is a problem. This wasn't new. Manchester United have conceded from set pieces 4 times out of the last 6 away games. 4 times Manchester United has conceded set pieces. Fulham clearly targeted Bayinder's lack of command by crowding him every single time they had a corner kick, apart from on the left-hand side. Every single time they had a corner kick on the right-hand side, they crowded Ben Yedder with 3 or more players. And that gave an opportunity to Muniz in the back post. It gave an opportunity to Bassi in the back post. It gave an opportunity to, who was the other person? In the back post. 3 clear opportunities that honestly, in my setting day right now, I would have put away. They just did not have the luck to put it up. Arsenal would have put away goals like that. City would have put away goals like that. Liverpool, same thing. And the funny thing about it is that if we do not correct it by getting a goalkeeper that would be commanding in his box and tell these players what to do, how to give him opportunities for him to come and claim the ball, every single person that we pay, every single team that we play in the Premier League is going to try this, because it is part and parcel of scouting the team you're playing against. And that is going to be a worrying sign. And when I'm talking about sign, it honestly has to then lead to the 5th, last but not the least, signs of a manager under pressure. Ruben Amorim's decision is he's going to leave and literally pay the price based on his decision making. Amorim's double change in the 53rd minute, removing Casemiro and Ahmad, shifted the balance of the team, the balance of the game in general, and it wasn't to Manchester United's favour. United lost control of the midfield. We lost the attacking width simultaneously in the same breath, because Diego Dalot coming into the game did not do much. In fact, he caused the opportunity that they scored the goal from by trying to do whatever he tried to do in that situation. Just check the ball back so we can start building up. But he tried to control it to his side and open his body, and then the person basically stole the ball, gave it to Iwobi, and that was it. The numbers, after going 1-0 up, Manchester United dropped from a 48% to a 41% in the final 20 minutes. That is not a good sign. They managed just 1 shot after the goal. Another bad sign. The Manchester United of old, when we go up 1-0, every single opponent is scared because they know there's no relenting. They know that the second goal is coming. They know that the 3rd, the 4th, and maybe the 5th is on its way. And now they're shaking in their boots. But for us, we revert into trying to defend the goal, defend the win. No. You score a first goal. The most dangerous scoreline in football is 2-1. And after that is 1-0. You score a goal. You need to control the game for the next 5 minutes. Control the game. Let us understand that we are going to weather the storm of them trying to throw the kitchen sink at us. And then once we weather the storm, then we increase the pace, we increase the tempo in order for us to get the second goal. That's how you do it. That's how you manage a game. And we didn't do that. We let them come. We let them have the ball. We let them build and we let them score. Post-match, Amorim admitted that the team thought about the result, not about the performance after scoring. That the defensive mindset invited Fulham forward and they were punished by it. Absolutely. He is not wrong with that. Now the optics is what has to be ended with this one. 2 games in, Manchester United are winless. Burnley, Leeds, and what was the second one? These teams have already gotten wins in their record in the first 2 games, and Manchester United haven't. That is problematic, and the pressure is rising. With no outfield player scoring yet after spending £200 million on our attacking line, which I'm not worried about because I actually think that the goals are going to start coming. But the pressure and the narrative is already building, and that is not what Ruben Amorim wants. Not with the start of the season. You need to start winning games. And we are going to be facing Burnley next. If there's one thing that we know with Burnley, okay, on the dash. But I know Scott Parker is also smart enough to actually figure it out. We play Burnley next, over the weekend in the Premier League anyway, because we have a midweek game. But the truth about it is that we need to figure it out. Man United's season won't be defined by one night at the Craven Cottage. Yes, I know that. But the warning signs are there. Missed chances, midfield gaps, and a team still learning its own identity. The question has to be, will we adapt before it's too late? And that is the question. Let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that follow button if you haven't. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.